Hey everyone, and welcome to Geekdom Forecast. And as you can see, the scenario is a little different because I am in a different place altogether.
Mumbai.
But fret not, it's the same old Geekdom Forecast, same old Ren, and today we'll be talking about
What if?
yes, that's right. What if? This is the MCU's first official venture into animation, and this is right after the Loki fallout, and by that I mean the branching of the timelines. And uh, well, it's an anthology series, and I have some things to say about it. Let's just say it's somewhat of a mixed reception so far.
Oh shit.
This isn't the first time we'll be seeing the Watchers because we did see them in Guardians of Galaxy Volume 2 with Stan Lee. The current Watcher that we're seeing here is overlooking these vast new alternate realities, and he has promised us several times he will not interfere. And if someone keeps saying that, that means that that person is sure as hell gonna break their promise.
Yeah, but those are the best kind.
And spoiler alert, he does.
You had one job.
Showrunner AC Bradley has confirmed that this is indeed canon, the events of What If. The Watcher is voiced by Jeffrey Wright. We're gonna see him soon in a different place altogether. We are gonna take a different approach towards What If. And since none of these episodes really don't have much of a connection with the following episodes, except when we come towards the end, we'll be rating each of these episodes out of 10. We'll be assigning an average rating for the season.
And here we go.
Let's talk about the first episode, the one with Captain Carter. And in this one, it's Peggy Carter who goes through the entire super soldier process. Basically, instead of Steve Rogers being the science experiment, it was Peggy Carter. The common gripe that I have throughout the series, and I'll be mentioning this again and again, is the voice acting, which really needs to improve for the next season because this is a thing which we'll face throughout the series. Coming back to this one, the plot is fairly simple. It follows the events of Captain America First Avenger. There's nothing too different about this. I would say the action sequences for this series, it's really good. The animation is great, but it still feels little dull overall. I'm happy that Peggy Carter got to be Captain Carter and she's finally in the forefront and she's wearing the shield. And of course, throughout the episode, she also deals with sexism and all that. It just wasn't really a strong episode for me. I wish they could have done a little bit more. I think their runtime could have been increased a little bit. I would have invested myself in these characters. So for this episode, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Soka.
Let's talk about episode 2, and that is What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord? This was a really good episode. Why is this one of the best? Because even in such a short capsule, it delivers it all. It's a amazing balance of heart, humor, action sequences, the visuals, and the art. It's all stunning altogether. The character of T'Challa doesn't really stick out like a sore thumb just because he's a Star-Lord. The values of T'Challa is being displayed, is being put on a universal scale, and he has brought many changes in many characters. For example, Thanos is redeemed. The Ravagers are different over here. They are more like noble warriors. This shows that T'Challa is one of the purest souls in the MCU, and we will surely miss this character a lot. Also, it was amazing to see the Collector again, although in a more or less different avatar. T'Challa perfectly fits in the world of the Guardians of the Galaxy, a well-balanced dose of emotion, action, and humor. Of course, they are talking a lot about family, and family is something which Hollywood is really, really, really obsessed with.
You don't turn your back on family.
How would I rate this episode? I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. It was a good watch, and I had great fun watching this one.
Damn!
Episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? This is again one of the first time thingies for the MCU because they are venturing neck deep in the world of murder, mystery, etc. etc. But going back to my previous statement, it's not really neck deep, but more like dipping their toes. They couldn't really get deep into this entire concept altogether because runtime issues, of course.
Time's up.
The Avengers, they all are assassinated, and turns out it's Hank Pym who's doing this because they had recruited his daughter, Hope Van Dyne, for a SHIELD mission, and things went wrong, and this guy went full berserk. He went full Darth Vader over here, and he's killing off all the Avengers. Let's just say it's quite a violent episode compared to the previous MCU flicks or shows that we have seen.
Fatality.
I'm talking about the way they killed off Hulk. But at the same time, I felt that while it's trying to be a murder mystery kind of episode, it still tries to be, it still tries to have that comedic touch that the MCU has. So sometimes there's like a tonal disbalance. This is a proper example of the MCU being a little adventurous, and by that I mean the heroes and villains are interchanged and we see a different reality with, of course, the watcher not interfering for now. Overall, a bold and mature genre to tackle, but still just wasn't that good enough. Decent story, couldn't really relate or care for the characters, sadly, so giving this a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, that's not good.
Episode 4, What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart Instead of His Hands? There's a saying that power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this episode really, really shows what I'm actually said right now, because here Doctor Strange goes berserk. He is Strange Supreme, and he is trying to tap into the world of the dark dimension so that he can get back his old girlfriend, Dr. Christine Palmer. And unlike Flash, he doesn't really create a flash point or a strange point. He does something even worse. His entire universe falls, and he's the only one in that little bubble of his. Kind of strange, right? So this is what something can happen if you are absolutely power hungry. You gotta give this guy some slack because he lost someone he loved, and it begs you to ask this question: would you do something like this? If you had such power, would you try to get back someone you lost? Would you do something like that? And while watching this episode, the one DC character that did come to my mind was Hal Jordan, and the destruction of Coast City led to his eventual downfall and the creation of Parallax. So nice little thing that they had going on over there, and overall quite a dark episode for an MCU, and wish it was a little longer, but at the same time I'm not really cutting points or whatever just because it was short. This one was great, and I'm gonna give this one an 8.5 out of 10.
My man.
Episode 5, What If Zombies. To be very honest, this was the one episode I was really looking forward to because A, I love zombies, B, I loved reading Marvel Zombies. I was pretty excited for this one, but this was a pretty disappointing episode and I was really let down. Concept was great. Hank Pym, while he goes to the quantum realm, he finds that his wife Janet is infected by the zombie virus, and that's how it spreads. We also see the fall of the Avengers. We see, I think, yes, a decapitated Doctor Strange. We see Tony Stark as a zombie, Captain America as a zombie. But I wasn't happy with this episode at all. The thing about zombie movies, zombie shows, zombie series is that there has to be a sense of urgency, a sense of survival, a sense of unity among the humans, and you need to really feel for the survivors as they are trying to venture their way in this post-apocalyptic world. And there are several movie shows and video games about zombie apocalypse and how one tends to fall in love with the human characters. But in this one, I was like, do these humans even know that they are humans, or have they truly lost their human emotions? Because when Bucky meets zombie Captain America, there's nothing. And in fact, he just delivers a dry line which goes something like this.
Sorry, pal. Guess this is the end of the line.
So how are you supposed to feel for characters during a zombie apocalypse if they themselves are so just doing something just because they have to? I loved Zombie Wanda though, and Vision here also pretty questionable thing he does. That was great. I wish they built more on that. This episode had the potential to be the best and go absolutely bonkers, but unfortunately it was not. So 4 out of 10.
Fuck!
Episode 6, What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark? And I'm glad that this did not happen in the original timeline, because this was a really mediocre and boring episode. And gone is that complex Killmonger, one of the best villains the MCU ever had. The one who had a questionable moral compass but still fighting for what he believed in. This one is just someone who's power hungry at best, but still in a boring kind of way. The voice acting is not good here at all. Tony Stark dies again several times. I would say you can skip past this episode. Nothing's gonna happen. I think they just made this episode because they had to show Killmonger somewhere, and because he had such a high demand. And I personally feel that he shouldn't have been killed off in Black Panther. In my opinion, the weakest episode, and I don't really think this episode should have been made. I'm sure there have been other concepts that they could have worked on, but overall this just did not work for me. Giving this 3 out of 10. I'm sorry. Episode 7, What If Thor Was the Only Child? Thor in first two Thor movies is a little different compared to Ragnarok and Infinity War and Endgame. In the later Thor movies, we see the comedic elements coming really in the forefront. So if you are a person who has read a lot of Thor comics, so that badass that was Thor, you are not gonna get that, and you will not like this episode as well, because Party Thor, as what people say, Party Thor here is dumber than the one that we saw in Ragnarok. So I'm going to look at this episode from that perspective, not from the comic book counterpart, which is oh so different. Yeah, this is a pretty fun episode, very light-hearted. I think the funniest what if episode that we have for this season. Chris Hemsworth is great as the voice actor. It seems like he's having a gala time voicing Thor. We have some actors coming back as well. Natalie Portman is back as Jane Foster. It almost has a little bit of romance there as well, and Thor goes one-on-one with Captain Marvel as they are, fighting through continents and everything, and that was a fun thing to watch. So I'm gonna be giving this episode for what it is. It tries to be a more light-hearted episode. So for that, I am giving it a 7 out of 10.
Soka.
Episode 8, What If Ultron Won? And in this episode, he has Vision's body, the Mind Stone, the Vibranium and everything. He also has all the Infinity Stones, and Ultron here is like really, really, really cool and one of the strongest villains in the MCU, and he almost got the Steppenwolf treatment because in Justice League, Steppenwolf was in the Snyder Cut. Steppenwolf was a villain that you really need to watch out for. Same thing with Ultron here. It's almost like a redemption for Ultron, and the post-apocalyptic world in Ultron's world really works well. The Avengers are done. They're all finished. We have Hawkeye, which resembles Green Arrow from Dark Knight Returns, and a Black Widow. And they are looking for Zola's algorithm so that they can infect Ultron's mind with a virus. And Ultron is like devouring worlds, planets, universe, and everything. And finally, he gets in contact with the Watcher, and the Watcher and Ultron have a go. So basically, this story is taking place at two different levels. One in a more celestial space, and one at like your ground level. So I prefer the one which is up there. Pretty good episode, a proper redemption for a character like Ultron, and this is where the connective tissue in the What If series starts taking shape. This one is directly connected to the next episode, and the end of the previous one, Party Thor one, is also connected to this one. So this is where things start shaping. All the ambiguous endings, they also start working well. Love the overall bleakness that this episode has. At the same time, it's quite colorful as well. This one, I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10.
Son of a bitch did it!
Episode 9, What If the Watcher Interfered? So after weeks and weeks and weeks of build-up of this Watcher saying that he will not interfere, Ultron is the one who finally makes him interfere, and he takes the role of Nick Fury, but at a multiversal scale. He finally gets all these characters that we have been following through the course of What If, and this episode kind of feels like the end of a mega comic book event, but at the same time, I would have really enjoyed this episode had the build-up been there since the first episode only, because we started getting that connective tissue thing from episode 7. So it wasn't really much. I just felt like this episode just tries very hard to connect all the previous episodes with the Watcher just recruiting everyone. It just felt random at best sometimes and felt like a last minute save. They probably needed like an Avengers Endgame kind of thing, so they got everyone. But I can understand why a lot of people will enjoy this episode, because all the characters are here. All these characters, the Guardians of the Multiverse, yes, they are called that, and that's a pretty cool name. The action sequences are great, of course, throughout the series. The pacing and the story could have been lot better had this episode been a little longer. Of course, one of the best things about this episode was that Black Widow finally gets a proper send-off, unlike Avengers. This is what I would consider a proper Black Widow farewell. Overall, what I would like to say is that this episode had a great skeleton structure, but the meat was just lacking. But at the same time, a decent enough conclusion for What If. So I'm gonna give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Before we give a final rating for this season, there are some things I would love to address about this series. The first thing is the voice acting that really needs to improve. You need to get like professional voice actors and really let them invest themselves in these characters, and let me tell you, then the series would really pick up. You need to have a longer runtime for all these episodes, because 25 to 30 minutes with such characters, such scale, action, whatnot, it's just not enough to get anyone invested. Unless if you're a hardcore fan of MCU, then maybe either be an anthology series or you have some kind of connection between these episodes, and just don't try to be an anthology series or episode which tries to, ties everything so that there's like a proper conclusion. You either choose enough with the open-ended and vague endings. They work really well if you use it less, because less is more, and if you keep doing that, it just does not work. And please write better scripts, because there's absolutely no rush. Marvel, you have absolutely nothing to lose. Overall, giving this What If series, the season 1 of What If,
a 6.3 out of 10.
Alright guys, that's it for today. If you do like what we are doing, hit us a like and do subscribe and do share our content. This is Ren in a different place altogether, probably in an alternate timeline, signing off.